I was a man willing to give my life for my fiancée, but she was the one who pushed me back into the churning sea with her own hands. Even as I took my last look toward the shore from under the water, her back was to me, her arms wrapped tightly around another man's shoulders. After I was rescued and ended up in the ICU, she had the nerve to complain that I couldn't handle a little trouble. Everyone assumed I'd do what I had done for the past 6 years, soften up, forgive her, and continue to debase myself for the sake of what I thought was love. Instead, as she stood by my hospital bed with teary eyes, ready to apologize, I simply said, "We're breaking up, Ava. I don't love you anymore." Then I immediately changed the contact name of the girl who pulled me from death's door to my girl. Because that day in the ocean, I finally saw clearly who was trying to save my life, and who was just waiting for me to drown. My fiancée dove into the ocean without a second thought to save another man. I used every ounce of my strength to pull her back to shore, only for her to shove me back into the violent waves. "Go save him first," she ordered. Later, standing by my hospital bed, she asked, "But you're such a good swimmer, aren't you?" I just turned my head away and said flatly, "Leave. I don't love you anymore." Today, my fiancée, Ava, and I were in Malibu for our engagement photo shoot. The wedding was set for the end of the year. The photographer snapped a picture, freezing a moment of our happiness in time. "Ava." Suddenly, a voice called out her name. She held her pose for the camera, but I could feel her entire body go rigid. I recognized the man instantly. It was Ethan, Ava's childhood sweetheart. For the last 6 years, he'd been a shadow hanging over our relationship. He was the reason for more arguments than I could count. Ava's defense was always the same. If there was really something going on, would I still be with you? And because I loved her, I always let it go. "Do you want to take a break?" I asked her. She shook her head firmly. "Let's just finish the shoot." The photographer continued directing us. "Bride," leaning closer to the groom. "Chin up. Give him a kiss. A bigger smile, please." Ava forced a smile, but it was stiff, unnatural. Suddenly, a loud splash. Someone was in the water. Somebody fell in. The beach erupted into chaos, a chorus of screams and shouts. Before I could even process what was happening, Ava had torn off her veil and plunged into the ocean, swimming toward the figures struggling in the waves. But a wedding dress becomes incredibly heavy the moment it's soaked. She was being pulled under, almost swallowed by the waves. Without a second thought, I dove in after her, using every bit of my strength to drag her back toward the shore. I finally managed to pull her onto the sand, completely exhausted and on the verge of collapse. "James, go save Ethan." Before I could even get a word out, she shoved me hard, sending me stumbling back into the water. Wave after wave crashed over me. The current felt like a pair of hands, pulling me deeper and deeper. I fought to swim to the surface, but my body kept sinking. In that moment, Ava was the only person who could help me. But she was gone. In the distance, I saw that someone had already pulled Ethan from the water. He was on the sand, coughing violently and gasping for breath. Another massive wave was about to hit, so I held my breath and dove under it. When I finally fought my way back to the surface, gasping for air, the only thing I saw was Ava sprinting toward Ethan. Her figure grew smaller and smaller, leaving me behind without a moment's hesitation. The last thing I saw was Ava reaching Ethan, throwing one arm around him and patting his back with the other as they held each other tightly. The white dress clung to her, looking so pure and radiant. The truth is, the signs had always been there. Ava always claimed she didn't love Ethan, but when forced to choose between us, she chose him without a second's hesitation. I couldn't pretend I didn't see it anymore. The next time I woke up, I was in a hospital bed. My mom was sitting beside me, her eyes red and swollen from crying. "James, you're finally awake," she said, her voice thick with relief. "Are you hungry? Thirsty? Does anything hurt?" I shook my head, still feeling dizzy. I tried to speak, but my chest felt like it was on fire, and I broke into a fit of violent, uncontrollable coughing. "Don't try to talk," my mom said, quickly getting up to pat my back gently. "The doctor said you swallowed a lot of water." Her eyes welled up with tears as she watched me. No more beach engagement shoots. It's too dangerous, she said. I'm so thankful they got you out of there. If they hadn't, I'd sue that photography company for everything they're worth. So, it was the photography crew who pulled me out. I remained silent, my mind replaying the suffocating terror of being pulled under by the waves. I'm just glad you and Ava are both safe, Mom continued. If anything had happened to you too, I don't know how your father and I, or her parents, would have carried on. I lowered my gaze, staring blankly at the hospital gown I was wearing. Are you worried about Ava, sweetie? Mom asked. She's fine. She was here a little while ago, but you were still unconscious. She went to check on a friend. I heard they fell in the water too. That beach must be cursed. No matter how pretty it is, don't ever go back there for pictures. There won't be a next time, I said, my voice raspy. Not ever. I closed my eyes, overcome by a profound weariness. My mom told me to get some rest and left to buy me some toiletries. I'm not sure how long I was alone before the door to my room opened again. I turned my head, about to call out for my mom, but it was Ava standing in the doorway, her eyes puffy and red. I was too exhausted to even try to read her expression, so I just turned my face away and pretended she wasn't there. I heard the click of her heels as she approached the bed. She leaned over me and said, "You're always at the gym. How could you not handle a little trouble like that?" The very first words out of her mouth were an accusation. A dull ache flared in my chest, then vanished just as quickly. My voice was a raw whisper. Is he really that important to you, Ava? So important that you could watch your fiancé drowning and just walk away without a single glance back? I'm sorry, she said, her tone laced with self-pity. I thought you could make it back on your own. Ethan seemed like he was in worse shape, so my first instinct was to check on him. I nodded slowly. So you do love him, don't you? Suddenly, it all made perfect sense. You can't compete with the bond between childhood sweethearts. In that instant, all the love, the anger, the resentment I felt seemed to wash away, just like the tide. Ava quickly backpedaled. No, I love you. To me, Ethan is just like a brother. Like a brother. What a load of crap. I coughed again, and she rushed to pour me a glass of water. I took a moment to catch my breath, then looked at her. Ava, we're done. I don't love you anymore. Hearing this, she slammed the glass down on the nightstand. You're ending our 6-year relationship over a little thing like this. I looked into her furious eyes, seeing a storm of emotions I couldn't decipher. I spoke slowly and clearly. I was the one who pulled you out of the ocean, and in return, you pushed me back in for a man who is a complete stranger to me. I didn't even have the strength to call for help, and you just walked away toward him without looking back. I almost died out there, Ava, and you call that a little thing? Her composure shattered. She collapsed onto my bed, sobbing. Honey, I was wrong. It was the first time she had ever truly apologized to me, and the first time she had ever called me that. I really thought you could make it back, honey. I was wrong. Please forgive me, please. I pushed her off me. You were wrong, and I'm not going to forgive you. We're over, Ava. You can leave now. She looked up, her face a mask of disbelief, and her voice rose. James, I've already apologized to you, and I promised it would never happen again. Why can't you just let it go? I had reached my limit. What part of this are you not understanding? I said we're over. Get out. The words were barely out of my mouth when the door to my room flew open. Are you serious with this drama right now? Ethan stormed in, looking down at me with pure contempt. Ava told you it was an accident. She's been crying her eyes out apologizing to you. What more do you want? I looked up at him and let out a cold laugh. Maybe because I'm usually so calm, he actually thought he could walk all over me. Who the hell do you think you are, coming into my room and telling me what to do? Ethan glared at me, his expression dismissive. I've known Ava our whole lives. She's like a sister to me, and I'm not going to stand here and watch you bully her. I picked up the slightly damp glass from the nightstand, took a sip of water, and spoke calmly. If you're so protective of her, why don't you just marry her yourself? If he'd really wanted to, he would have done it years ago instead of letting Ava hang around him for so long. Ethan shot back immediately. I've always just seen her as a sister. You're the one she loves. I don't know if it was my question or Ethan's sister comment, but all the color drained from Ava's face. I started to laugh. Yeah, you two are just like brother and sister. All you had to do was cough a few times, and she was willing to let her fiancé die to run to your side. Ethan's fists clenched at his sides. You're still alive, aren't you? Stop using that to attack her. I hurled the glass against the wall. Get the hell out of my room, both of you. Leave now, or I'll have you thrown out. Ava stared at me, incredulous. Do you have to be so unreasonable? The word triggered a flashback, and my mind was filled with the crushing helplessness of struggling in the water while no one even bothered to look back. I remembered the feeling of kicking desperately for the surface, but getting nowhere, of wave after wave pushing me down. I remembered the searing pain of salt water filling my lungs like 1,000 tiny needles. It was the terrifyingly silent, utterly hopeless feeling of suffocation, a feeling I will never forget. I need a rest now, I said, my voice low. Please leave. Fine, avas nept. You're the one kicking me out. Just don't come crying to me later. With that, she grabbed Ethan's arm and stormed out of the room. About an hour later, my mom rushed back into the room and immediately placed her hand on my forehead. I frowned. Mom, what are you doing? She felt my forehead, then her own for comparison, muttering, Your temperature seems normal. Son, are you sure you're thinking clearly? Is it true you're breaking up with Ava? Yes, but you're supposed to be getting married at the end of the year. I don't love her anymore. My mom shot up from her chair. You don't love her anymore? Just yesterday you two were all smiles at your engagement shoot. And today you're done? Did you swallow so much seawater that it's addled your brain? I met Ava our freshman year at UCLA. I fell for her the moment I saw her, and we had a great few years together on campus. After graduation, we met each other's parents, dated for 2 more years, and set the wedding for the end of this year. I really thought I was going to spend the rest of my life with her. That is, until her childhood friend moved back to the States. At first, Ava told me Ethan was a total player. She even admitted, laughing, that they had tried dating once, but broke up after he cheated on her. She said she couldn't stand guys like that. She claimed the only reason she hadn't blocked his number was because they had grown up together. She promised me she would keep her distance, but then they were going to karaoke, on trips, and playing online games together more than ever. She used to complain to me that she hated playing support roles in video games because she felt useless. She always wanted to be the damage dealer, making me play the tank to take all the hits for her. But ever since Ethan came back, I wasn't even on the team for ranked matches anymore. She started playing as a support character who literally attaches to another player, and she would spend the entire match latched onto Ethan's character, never leaving his side. Her first instinct was no longer me. When I was drowning, she pushed me back in. When I was fighting for my life, she walked away. By the time I finished explaining everything, my mom's face was pale with rage. She immediately called my dad and told him to start the process of calling off the wedding. I was so wrong about her, she fumed. How could I have ever thought she was good enough for our family? She treats her fiancé worse than a stranger. She almost got my son killed. After she hung up, I asked, but I thought the photography crew saved me. I'm not sure of the exact details, she said, but I heard the waves carried you pretty far out. A young woman spotted you and managed to drag you to shore by herself. She even performed CPR. She's the one who saved your life. It was so chaotic that nobody got her name or number, but I've got people looking into it. We have to find her and thank her properly. I nodded in agreement. The next morning, Mr. and Mrs. Lin came to the hospital to see me. I heard they had gone to my parents' house to apologize first. They were furious. Apparently, Mr. Lin had been so angry, he almost hit Ava. Mrs. Lin looked grim as she told me, James, I've already given Ava the tongue lashing of her life. She and Ethan grew up together. It's purely a brother-sister dynamic. She just panicked and made a terrible mistake. You're the one she truly loves, James. Mr. Lin gritted his teeth and slapped his thigh in frustration. And that damn kid, Ethan, what was he even doing at your engagement shoot? I already gave him a piece of my mind yesterday. I promise you, nothing like this will ever happen again. After they finished tearing into Ethan, they called Ava right there in front of me. Where are you? Mr. Lin demanded. Get to the hospital. Now. I could hear a lot of wind on her end of the line, almost drowning out her voice. James is breaking up with me. So why would I go to the hospital? I'm not coming. Her father roared into the phone. James is just upset. You get yourself to this hospital right now and apologize to him. Then, faintly, I heard another voice in the background, Ethan's. Sharp turn coming up, hold on. Then I heard Ava again. Dad, I'm busy right now. I have to go. That damn girl. Mr. Lin looked like he was about to smash his phone, but he glanced at me in a hospital bed and restrained himself, taking a few deep breaths to calm down. When he turned back to me, his expression was one of forced composure. Ava's just very busy with work right now. She'll come by to apologize in person as soon as she's free. My mom shot to her feet. Mr. Lin, she's with that boy right now, isn't she? I heard him tell her to hold on. If they're that close, then she doesn't need to bother my son anymore. My son isn't some prize she can claim whenever she feels like it. Mr. Lin's face fell, the truth exposed. He shot a glare at his wife. Look at the daughter you raised. Mrs. Lin, though clearly embarrassed, tried to smooth things over. James, you just focus on getting better. Her father and I will go drag her back here ourselves. We'll make her apologize and beg for your forgiveness. At this point, just hearing her name made me feel sick. I tossed the half-eaten apple one was holding into the trash. She doesn't need to come, I said. We're already done. In the end, Mr. and Mrs. Lin left, fuming, still promising they would make things right for me. After a few days of recovery in the hospital, I was finally strong enough to be discharged. In all that time, I never saw Mr. or Mrs. Lin again. I figured Ava must have refused to apologize, and they were too ashamed to face me. It was for the best. If I was going to make a clean break, it needed to be decisive. I drove to the new house we bought. The place had once held all my hopes for our future together. I had picked out everything for this house myself, from the roof tiles to the hardwood floors, making trip after trip to home improvement stores. Every style, every color, was chosen to match Ava's taste. The interior was done in a rustic farmhouse style she loved. She said it felt more like a home. She'd even talked about having 2 kids, so we converted what was supposed to be a guest room on the first floor into a playroom with direct access to the backyard. To the right of the front door was a small flower garden, and to the left, a vegetable patch. She had bought all sorts of seeds and had been excitedly learning to garden, saying she wanted our future kids to eat vegetables grown by their own mom. But now, the soil in that patch was dry and cracked, looking like it had been abandoned for a long time. Nothing could grow there anymore. Just like my relationship with Ava, it was barren. As I started packing up her belongings, memories of our time here flooded my mind. All those moments that were once so sweet now just felt bitter, and I had to force myself to pack them away and discard them. I was about to leave when the front door opened. Ava was standing there. She looked surprised at first, then a flicker of panic crossed her face. Ethan was right behind her. Ethan was dressed head to toe in designer streetwear, with combat boots, messy on-purpose gray hair, and a sharp, silver stud in his ear. He looked like he'd walked straight out of fashion magazine. Ava stared for a second. "James, what are you doing here?" Then a smug little smile spread across her face, as if she'd already written the entire script in her head. I was jealous, throwing a fit, and had come here to beg her to take me back. "Don't get the wrong idea," she said quickly. "My car's in the shop, and Ethan was just giving me a ride home since it was on his way." I looked past her, my eyes landing on Ethan. He was handsome, I had to admit. It was no wonder Ava could never quite let him go, that their relationship had been so messy for all these years. "Good to see you again," I said, offering him a small smile. Ethan looked a little taken aback, his eyes shifting between surprise and unease. I then raised my arm, blocking their path. My voice was calm but firm. "Miss Lin, I bought this house for our wedding. Now that we've broken up, I need you and your friend to leave. And I want all of your things out of here by the end of the day." In 6 years, I had never spoken to her so formally, and I had certainly never called her Miss Lin. Ava's face flushed with anger. "James, what is your problem? I told you, he was just giving me a ride. Do you have to be so passive-aggressive in front of him? He was just being nice. Does being with you mean I'm not allowed to have any male friends? You're breaking up with me over something so petty, and now you're kicking me out? James, I can't believe I was so wrong about you." She got more and more worked up, even raising her fist to beat on my chest. I caught her by the wrist, my grip firm. Ava, we are broken up. You need to get your things and leave my house. And just so we're clear, I'm not in love with you anymore. So don't flatter yourself by thinking this is some ploy to get you back. Her eyes widened as she stared up at me, but she found no trace of the old affection there. She was shaking with rage. Fine, I don't love you either. The moment the words were out, she spun around, stood on her toes, and kissed Ethan. Ethan wrapped his arms around her waist, and they started making out passionately right in front of me. Was this supposed to be some big dramatic performance for my benefit? Sorry, but I wasn't interested. Are you two done with the show? I asked, pulling out my phone. Or should I call the cops and report you for trespassing? I actually started dialing 911 right there. I didn't care what she did, but I knew she cared about her family's reputation. She glared at me, her jaw tight. You're unbelievable, James. Who would even want this stupid house anyway? Humiliated, Ava called a moving company right then and there and told them to come get her stuff immediately. On her way out the door, she shot back. Don't come crawling back to me. I immediately made another call right in front of her. Yes, I'd like to schedule a service to replace all the beds and sofas, and I'll also need the entire house professionally sanitized. The color drained from her face, then returned in angry blotches. Once I felt ready, I went back to work. The first thing I did was ask my assistant to call a realtor and list the house. I've been out of the office for a while, and there was a mountain of work waiting for me. By the time I caught up, it was already 2 p.m. I went downstairs to grab a quick lunch, but the cafe was sold out of my favorite beef and tomato stew. I sighed in frustration. Just then, a steaming plate of that very stew was set down on the table in front of me. I looked up to see a young woman smiling at me, her smile revealing a pair of cute little fangs. You seem to be recovering well, she said. Already out and about having a nice meal. I raised an eyebrow. She winked. Next time I save someone's life, I'll have to make sure they're conscious enough to recognize me afterward. It clicked. I realized who she was. It was you, I said. Thank you, really. Can I buy you lunch? Anything you want. Should I go for something fancy then? Like lobster or filet mignon? She teased. Absolutely, I replied seriously. Of course, we'd have to go to a different restaurant for that. I'm fine with that, she said. But I can't today. I'll be late for work. She pulled out her phone. Let's exchange numbers on iMessage. You can treat me to that fancy dinner another time. I mean, dragging you out of the ocean landed me in the hospital for 3 days. I think that's worth at least one good meal to make up for it. Deal, I said, and we exchanged numbers. So, my hero, what's your name? It's Zoe, she said. I saved her contact in my phone. I am James. Before I could finish, she showed me her phone screen. She'd already saved my contact as James, the drowning guy. She grinned. You're pretty well known back at UCLA. So that's how she knew me. I smiled back. I guess that makes you my underclassman. The only reason she recognized me was because of the once famous campus romance, the story of James and Ava, which had been the talk of the university. Apparently, we were such a big deal that people were still talking about us long after we graduated. Zoe had started at UCLA 3 years after I did, which is how she'd heard the stories. I asked her about what happened that day, and she told me she'd just gone to the beach by herself to clear her head. She saw me struggling in the water from a distance and immediately ran to help. She couldn't have been more than 5'3", but she somehow managed to drag my dead weight all the way to the shore. The effort exhausted her so much that she ended up spending 3 days in the hospital recovering. I felt incredibly guilty and tried to offer her some money as compensation, but she absolutely refused. The only thing she would accept was that fancy dinner. We both had to get back to work, so we said our goodbyes and went our separate ways. When I got back to my office, Ava was already sitting in my chair. "Where have you been?" she demanded, her tone accusatory. I almost laughed. Where I went was none of her business anymore. The moment I decided to end things, I had truly let go. I had blocked her on everything and hadn't made any attempt to contact her. It felt a little strange, sure, but that discomfort was nothing compared to the feeling of nearly dying in the ocean. As for her, without the constant affection and attention I'd given her for 6 years, Her only option was probably to cling even tighter to Ethan. But a player like him was never going to give her the commitment or the future she wanted. Ava took a few steps toward me, her hand reaching out as if to touch my arm before she pulled it back. She looked at me, her eyes filled with a sad, wounded expression. "I've been going to that hot pot place on Melrose every day for the past few days," she said. "I always order the spiciest broth." I just gave a slight nod and walked around her to my desk. The sight of her was irritating. "Every time it gets so spicy, I can't stand it. I think of you." Her eyes started to get red. "You love spicy food, but you always went with me to get mild things like pasta or salads. When my eyes are watering from the heat, I realize you must have thought that food was so bland. You couldn't have been happy. Our whole relationship, you were always the one making concessions for me, so much so that I started to take it for granted." Her face was a picture of regret, but her eyes were searching mine, waiting for me to give in. "James," I finally realized how wrong I was. I was losing my patience. "We've already broken up. Ava, what's the point of saying all this now?" Tears welled in her eyes, but I was completely out of patience. "I have work to do. If that's all, you can go." "James," she whispered, her voice trembling with a grief that seemed to break her. "I don't love Ethan. I only love you. I admit I was reckless that day. I just always thought you loved me so much that you would never leave me, no matter what I did. So, let me get this straight," I cut in. "In your world, I almost die, and I'm supposed to come back and just keep bending over backward for you without a single complaint? Is that it?" She bit her lip and started crying harder. My patience was gone. "Ava, stop living in the past. It's over. But I still love you," she sobbed. "What do I have to do to make you forgive me?" I pushed my chair back from my desk. "Just stay out of my life from now on." She lunged and grabbed my hand. "James, don't say that. You're just angry. You're only pushing me away." Was she insane? Clearly, talking to her was pointless, so my only option was to get away. I practically fled my own office, telling the receptionist and security on my way out that Ava Lynn was no longer allowed in the building. As soon as I got home, I got a text from Zoe. "Hey, I'm free on Saturday." I replied immediately. "Great. Saturday it is." On Saturday morning, I drove to pick her up. She came jogging toward the car in workout clothes, a light sheen of sweat on her forehead. "Hey, James, let's go." She flashed me that smile with the cute fangs. "Hey, no need to run. What's the rush?" I said, grabbing a bottle of water from my trunk and handing it to her. "You know, most girls prefer boba tea," she said playfully. "All right," I laughed. "Boba tea it is then." "Thanks, James." She smiled at me, her eyes crinkling at the corners, and the sunlight itself seemed to get a little brighter. I pulled up right in front of the boba shop, and before I could even ask what she wanted, she had hopped out and placed her order. She turned back to me. "What do you want, James?" Ava had never touched the stuff, said it was bad for her figure, and she never let me have it either. Now that I was here, I realized I actually wanted to try it. The only problem was I'd never ordered it before and had no idea what was good. "Anything is fine. Then you're having what I'm having," she declared. A moment later, she handed me a cup identical to hers. I looked at her, and for some reason, my mood felt lighter than it had in a long time. As we sipped our drinks, I asked her where she wanted to go for that fancy meal. She suggested we head to the mall and decide on a place there, and I agreed. Since she wouldn't let me compensate her with money, I figured I could at least treat her to a nice day. I walked with her through the entire mall, from the first floor to the fifth, but she only bought a few small, inexpensive things, and she never once let me pay. "Thanks for hanging out with me all day, James," she said. "I had a great time," I replied. "No need to thank me." After we were done shopping, she suddenly suggested we get hot pot. I was a little surprised. "Just hot pot?" "To me," she said with a shrug, "hot pot is the ultimate fine dining experience." I couldn't argue with that logic. What I hadn't expected was for her to pick my favorite hot pot place on Melrose. "So, James, can you still handle spicy food?" she asked. "I used to love it," I admitted, "but it's been a while. I'm not sure what my tolerance is like these days." She chattered away excitedly as she ordered for both of us. "Let's go with medium spicy, then. We should probably skip the insanely hot beef, or the broth will be undrinkable." Normally, Medium would have been fine for me, but it had been so long that I was sweating bullets after just a few bites. Zoe quickly passed me a napkin. Hey, do you want me to ask them to switch it to a mild broth? No, it's fine. I like the spicy broth. It was definitely hot, but I had missed the burn. It felt good. James, you've got a little piece of napkin on your face, Zoe pointed out. I wiped at my cheek, but couldn't find it. Where? She leaned in close to get a better look, then gently plucked it off my cheek. Right here. I instinctively straightened up in my seat. Oh, thanks. No problem. Zoe had just leaned back in her seat when a gust of wind from the opening door blew her hair across her face. In that same instant, someone rushed our table, and the sharp crack of a hand hitting skin echoed in the restaurant. A hard slap, right across Zoe's face. It was Ava. You bitch. How dare you try to steal my fiancé? Ava's voice was dripping with venom. I shot to my feet and moved to stand between them, shielding Zoe behind me. Ava, have you lost your mind? It was like she couldn't even hear me. She grabbed my arm, trying to shove me out of the way, but I didn't budge. She glared up at me. So, this is why you haven't been answering my calls or texts. You found a replacement already. A hot flash of anger shot through me. This woman was completely unhinged. Are you done making a scene? A scene? The word seemed to trigger her. She pointed a finger in my face and screamed, I catch you on a date with another woman, and you have the nerve to accuse me of making a scene? Her shouting had drawn the attention of the entire restaurant. A few people were even pulling out their phones to record. I didn't care if they got the wrong idea about me, but I wasn't going to let them slander Zoe. I lowered my voice. Ava, I'm going to say this one last time. We are over. Before the words were even fully out, there was another sharp crack. Zoe had stepped out from behind me and slapped Ava right back. That, Zoe said, her voice shaking with anger, was for everything you did to him. Ava let out a roar of fury and lunged at Zoe, her fist raised. I quickly stepped between them again, shielding Zoe. Behind me, Zoe was trembling with rage. You have the nerve to blame him? You were the one who cheated on him. You were the one who left him to drown in the ocean. What right do you have to stand here and judge anyone? So what if I like James? Your wedding is off. You're broken up. He's a great guy, and he's single. Why shouldn't I be interested? Don't be so greedy, Miss Lynn. You can't treat someone like garbage and still expect to keep him. You don't deserve him. I was just discovering that Zoe had a real fire in her. Ava's eyes filled with tears, and she gave me a pathetic look, as if expecting me to defend her. Without a moment's hesitation, I took Zoe's hand. Come on, Zoe. Let's get you to a doctor. James, As we walked past her, I saw the look of utter shock and heartbreak on her face. I think in that moment, she finally understood that I wasn't on her side anymore. I took Zoe to an urgent care clinic. The doctor checked her out and said that while her cheek would be bruised, the skin wasn't broken and there was no serious damage. He told us to just go home and rest. Back in the car, I was overwhelmed with guilt. I'm so sorry, Zoe. You got hit because of me. Hey, I already slapped her back, she said with a shrug. We're even. She laughed, a bright, clear sound. Besides, you didn't hit me, she did. Why should I let her get away with it? I thought about what she'd said in the restaurant, about liking me, and I wasn't sure how to respond. But then she changed the subject completely. Hey, James, do you remember that savory crepe stand near the north gate of the UCLA campus? I was confused by the sudden shift. Of course I do. I'm actually still kind of hungry, she said. I've got a sudden craving for one of their crepes. Still feeling guilty, I immediately agreed. You want to go there now? Sure, she said, breaking into another grin. I had to wonder if that slap had knocked something loose. How could she be so cheerful after what just happened? I drove us over to the crepe stand near campus, and we both ordered the one with shredded potatoes and egg. The air was filled with the delicious smell of cooking batter. Through the steam rising from the griddle, I heard Zoe's voice, soft and thoughtful. Do you know when I first started to like these crepes, James? I shook my head. It was a few years ago, right before Christmas she began. My grandmother was in the hospital, and I was rushing to see her when my phone and wallet got stolen. I couldn't get a cab. I had no money for food, and when I tried to ask some other students for help, they all thought I was trying to scam them. I was feeling completely hopeless when I overheard a couple arguing nearby. The girl was saying she couldn't eat carbs at night because they'd make her fat. Then she just stormed off. The guy just stood there for a long time. He didn't go after her. I could see the frustration in his eyes. He must have seen me crying because he walked over to me and asked, "Hey, do you want a potato crepe?" I was so hungry I could barely stand, so I forgot all about being proud and immediately nodded yes. I thought he was just going to give me the one his girlfriend had rejected, but he ordered a fresh one for me. When he found out I didn't have my phone, he hailed a cab for me, paid the driver, and told him to take me to the hospital. She paused, her eyes fixed on mine. The truth is, I never used to like these crepes. But ever since that day, they've been my favorite food. The story sounded incredibly familiar. The guy she was describing sounded a lot like me. I had a vague memory of a fight I'd had with Ava, right here over one of these crepes. I remembered feeling so frustrated and angry with no way to let it out. And then I'd seen this young woman, her nose red from the cold, her eyes puffy from crying, and my heart had just gone out to her. I had to be honest. Buying you a new crepe was really just an excuse for me to save face and break the awkward tension. She smiled, her eyes crinkling. I don't care why you did it. The important thing is that you helped me when I was at my absolute lowest. Ever since that day, it's like I've seen you through rose-colored glasses. I was a loss for words. "So, James," she said, her voice suddenly serious, "since we've run into each other again, and since you're single now, I was wondering if you'd give me a chance to win you over." I nearly choked on my crepe. Were all women this direct nowadays? I could feel my ears getting hot. A grown man getting flustered like this, it was embarrassing. I cleared my throat and answered seriously. "You saw what happened. I'm still dealing with the fallout from my last relationship. I'm not in a position to make any promises right now." She just blinked, a mischievous glint in her eye. "That's okay. I'll just get in line. Just remember, when you're ready, I'm first." I was stunned. Was that even a thing? After the incident at the hot pot restaurant, Ava was apparently livid. I heard she went straight home and threw a massive fit, demanding that her father immediately dissolve the business partnership between our families. But business isn't a game. Pulling out of a joint venture halfway through would cost both companies a fortune. As the conflict escalated, our parents had no choice but to schedule a meeting to try and sort things out. I wanted nothing to do with it. If she wanted to throw a tantrum, she could do it on her own time. I had planned to ignore the whole thing, but my parents, worried about the company, insisted I go with them to the Lynn's house. When Mr. and Mrs. Lynn saw that I had willingly come, they were visibly relieved and quickly offered me a coffee. "James, please don't hold this against Ava," Mr. Lynn began. "She's just immature. We know she doesn't always act rationally. We just hope that even though your relationship is over, you can part amicably and not let it affect the partnership between our companies. If you two can just talk this out today, we can put it behind us and continue our business as usual." I made my position clear immediately. "Mr. and Mrs. Lynn, my breakup with Ava is a personal matter. It has nothing to do with business. As long as the projects make sense, I have no problem continuing our partnership." All four parents turned to look at Ava. She said nothing, just stared at me intently. I ignored her completely. Suddenly, Ava's cold voice cut through the silence. "So, James, you let your new girlfriend slap me. Then you personally escorted her to the hospital and left me all alone in the restaurant. You must be feeling pretty pleased with yourself." The room went dead silent. "What are you talking about?" Mr. Lynn demanded. "What new girlfriend? Explain yourself." "He was cheating on me before we even broke up," Ava said with a nasty little laugh. "He just stood there and watched her slap me. Then he rushed to take her to the hospital and just abandoned me. He's the one who cheated, but he's trying to pin all the blame on me." "Some man you are, James." I laughed coldly. "We were already broken up. You're allowed to be all over another guy, but I'm not allowed to move on? That's a pretty convenient double standard you've got there." Furious and humiliated, Ava slammed her hand on the table, her eyes turning red. "Are you denying it?" She advanced on me, her expression exactly the same as it always was when we fought, completely irrational. She had always been this way, only capable of seeing her own side of things. In that moment, I felt a wave of relief. I was so glad I'd gotten out. If I hadn't, I would have spent the rest of my life drowning in her drama. I just smiled. The day you pushed me back into the ocean and left me for dead to go take care of Ethan, Zoe was the one who saved my life. I'm planning on asking her out. Is there a problem? The Lins were speechless. My own parents looked shocked. I guess none of them expected me to move on so quickly. Ava was shaking with rage. She let out a cold, sharp laugh and pointed at me. Fine, so you finally admit it. Great. You know what? You were right. I do love Ethan. You were always just second best. I'm going to marry him, and from now on, we're strangers. She rubbed her red eyes and turned to leave. She tried to make the exit look dramatic and final, but her steps were slow and hesitant. I knew she was waiting for me to stop her, so I did. Wait. She stopped instantly, lifting her chin defiantly. What is it? My voice was perfectly calm. Once our current joint ventures are concluded, our companies will no longer be working together. And don't send me a wedding invitation. You won't be getting one from me either. Her body went rigid, her fists clenching so tight her knuckles turned white. She shot me a look of pure hatred. Fine, you said it. Then she stormed out, slamming the door behind her, leaving our four parents staring in confusion. I rubbed the bridge of my nose, made a quick excuse, and left. I didn't bother explaining anything. I just drove to the grocery store, bought a bunch of snacks and food, and went straight to Zoe's apartment. She was clearly surprised to see me. James, what are you doing here? I came to see you, I said. She immediately stepped aside with a smile. Well, come on in. It's cold out there. I held up the grocery bags. I just bought a ton of food. My hands are freezing. I'm just going to put these in the kitchen. She followed me into the kitchen. Oh, you got groceries? I haven't even eaten yet today. What are we making? I feel like we didn't get to finish our hot pot yesterday, I said. I thought we could have a proper do-over tonight. Her eyes lit up. That sounds amazing. She rolled up her sleeves and started washing vegetables while I started chopping ingredients. We fell into an easy, surprisingly natural rhythm. Watching her bustling around the kitchen, I couldn't resist pulling out my phone. I snapped a picture of her profile as she concentrated on her task and posted it to Facebook with a simple caption, "My girl." She heard the shutter click and looked over. James, were you taking a picture? Just of the food, I said. For Facebook. She quickly dried her hands. I want to be the first like. She pulled out her phone, and then she froze, her eyes wide with disbelief. James, does this mean you're saying yes? Her face was full of hope. I nodded. Yes. And girlfriend, you can stop calling me your senior. Just call me James. She threw her arms around me, so happy she started to cry. James, I love you. Wow, things were moving fast. I held her, feeling my ears get hot again. A little quieter, I mumbled. How's this for quiet? She whispered, pulling back just enough to wink at me, a playful smirk on her face. Then she stood on her tiptoes and gave me a quick, soft kiss on the corner of my mouth. Is that quiet enough for you? I couldn't let her be the only one making moves. I leaned down, scooped her up into my arms, and deepened a kiss. After our amazing dinner at Zoe's, I went back to my apartment building, only to find Ava waiting for me by the entrance like some scorned woman in a melodrama. She glared at me, her fists clenched and her body trembling. So you're with Zoe now? You two were kissing right in front of me. I raised an eyebrow. And what does that have to do with you? James, do you really not love me at all anymore? She cried. Do you hate me so much that you'd use another woman just to hurt me? I was so tired of her drama. Ava, stop being so theatrical. Not loving you doesn't mean I hate you. Can you just leave me alone? She closed her eyes, tears streaming down her face. Fine, she whispered, her voice filled with despair. Just remember how you made me feel today. I hope you don't live to regret it. With that, she tore the engagement necklace I'd given her from her neck, threw it on the ground, and stormed away. For a moment, she actually looked heartbroken. Later that afternoon, I was scrolling through Facebook when I saw a post from Ava. It was a picture of a marriage certificate. The caption read, "My victory song." So childish. Did she really think that would make me feel heartbroken? Regretful? Sad? Without my love to fuel her, all her drama was just a performance for an audience of one. She could get married 10 times for all I cared. I blocked her profile without a second thought. The next day, my parents told me all hell had broken loose at the Lynns. It turned out that on the very day she and this guy, Oliver, got their marriage license, he was caught at a hotel with a model. Mrs. Lynn was so upset she had to be hospitalized, and Mr. Lynn was so furious he threatened to disown Ava. My mom asked if I wanted to go visit her parents in the hospital, but I refused. I was determined to cut all ties with that family for good. That very day, I moved in with Zoe. Our life fell into a comfortable routine. We'd go to work together in the morning, stop at the grocery store on the way home, cook dinner, watch movies. On weekends, we'd take little trips. It wasn't a whirlwind romance, but it was steady, comfortable, and real. The next I heard of Ava was 3 months later. She and Oliver were divorced. She called me late one night, crying, "James, I was wrong. I was so wrong. I only married him to spite you. Please, can you come back? Please don't abandon me." I cut her off. "I'm sorry, who is this? Do I know you?" Then I hung up and blocked her number. Just then, a pair of arms wrapped around my neck from behind, and a cheerful voice whispered in my ear, "Who was that?" "Just a spam call," I said. The words were barely out of my mouth before her lips met mine. "Shall we continue?" she murmured against my mouth. "Definitely." After finishing this story, perhaps we all feel like the protagonist, having struggled ashore from a churning sea, finally taking that first, clean breath of conscious air that is truly our own. This story isn't a simple revenge fantasy, but a mirror reflecting our own internal struggles. Were we truly holding on to love, or just the stubborn refusal to admit defeat? Is it the person we're devoted to, or the version of ourselves that has grown accustomed to sacrifice? One kind of love is built on the assumption that you'll always be there. It grows stingy with affection and trivializes your very survival, dismissing it as a little thing. True love, in contrast, is an unthinking instinct in a moment of crisis. It's the person who swims against the tide, whose only goal is to pull you from the depths. Zoe's appearance isn't a coincidence. It is the world's answer, arriving only after the protagonist learns to value himself. A true awakening often happens in a single, brutal instant. The moment you're fighting for your life, and all you see is the unhesitating back of the one you trust. In that moment, all self-deception shatters. Letting go can feel like carving poison from your own bones, but only by freeing your hands can you receive the warmth you truly deserve. The story's conclusion, therefore, is less about the protagonist finding a new love and more about him rediscovering the version of himself who is worthy of being loved. May we all find the courage for such clarity. The one who pushes you back into the sea never intended to share the boat with you, and the one waiting for you on the shore, that is your true harbor.